friends. How are we all doing here? Today, we are going to be recasting the Harry Potter series with AI technology. Beautiful, beautiful, perfect, wonderful. Hope you all are doing well. So I went through on ChatGPT and I asked it for the descriptions of the characters, and then I kind of was like, hey, if you're gonna recast this thing today, who would you put in some of these roles? And so I went through and I put together what ChatGPT came up with, and now we're gonna go through, dive to this together, and spit it out. I got some notes here, but yes, let's just dive right into it. So off the bat, let's start with Uncle Vernon. So Uncle Vernon is described in the book as a large, beefy man with a thick, bushy mustache and a face that turns purple when he gets angry. And Uncle Vernon is portrayed as strict, abusive guardian to Harry. So yeah, he's Harry's uncle. He's awful. He's a terrible uncle. He doesn't care about him. And you know, this is one of my things that I'm like, okay, everyone's mad about this new series, right? Because we're gonna take away from the old movies and blah blah blah. No. There's so much that they get wrong with the movie that is totally fine with them recasting. So I think it's gonna be fun. That is my delivery. Excuse that. But yeah, I think that recasting this and going a different direction and really stretching out the characters and building that plot development, I think it's going to be, for the long run, I think we're all going to enjoy it way more. It's going to feel like Game of Thrones or one of those sort of things. But so Uncle Vernon, the first up, and ChatGPT thought Brendan Gleeson, and I'm like, man, Brendan Gleeson in Banshee of Inisherin definitely had that mean sort of vibe to him. He could definitely get himself a little mustache too, but I was like, dang, that's pretty good casting. And ChatGPT, it'll spit out a bunch of different options. I chose the first or a better alternative, but I think Brendan Gleeson would be a perfect Uncle Vernon for sure. Next up, we got Petunia Dursley. So Petunia Dursley is described as a thin, long-necked woman with blonde hair that she wears in a neat bun. She's very concerned with appearing normal and respectable to her neighbors, and she's often seen wearing flowery dresses and aprons. And ChatGPT thought Cate Blanchett. If you saw Tar, Cate Blanchett, definitely similar vibe, where Petunia, she seems like she wants to be a little bit normal, but she's definitely mean. She's not a nice lady. And I think Cate Blanchett has that in her to sort of bring that out. But she sort of has this motherly look to her as well, right? Like I said, long neck, blonde hair, neat bun. I think this is really, really a tight casting from ChatGPT for sure here. Next up, we got Dudley Dursley. Now, he's described as a large, blonde, pig-like boy with a small, cruel mouth and snout-like nose. He's very spoiled and indulged by his parents, who give him everything he wants and let him get away with his bad behavior. This is Harry's cousin. He's first in line. He's the one who really agitates Harry to get Harry to first start to discover his powers or abilities or wizardry, whatever you want to describe it. And ChatGPT actually recommended Asa from Sex Education. What's his name? Asa Butterfield. But I didn't feel like that fit as good as this next one. So I went ahead and chose George Sear. I think that looks pretty close. Not that the boy has a pig-like nose, but I mean, it's pretty close, right? Like, I feel like he could definitely play Dudley, and then when you pair him up with the parents as well, it just feels like it fits right to me. So I thought that was really good casting. Good job, ChatGPT. Next up is Severus Snape. As having a long, greasy black hair, a hooked nose, and sallow complexion, he is tall and thin with a sharp and angular face, and often wears black robes. He has a cold and intimidating demeanor, and his speech is often described as cold and sardonic. Now, for someone like Snape, you need them to look menacing, look scary, but they also have to have that sort of like comforting vibe about them. Because as we all know, Snape turns out to be Snape, right? So he has to look evil, but at the end of the day, have like a little bit of a heart to him. And I think if you're gonna do the TV series, you're probably gonna explore way more between him and Lily. So you're gonna think he's a little bit more sensitive. So this person, oh, perfect. Tom Hiddleston. Tom Hiddleston, we've seen him do it in Loki. Loki's been the bad guy that you love. He has that range. He also has the greasy black hair, the nose, the complexion. I think, you put him in that Snape robe. I mean, that hits to me. To me, this is one of the best that ChatGPT actually came up with. I was like, okay, yeah, I could buy this. I can get behind this for sure. And he just has he just fits the shape to me and the complexion. And we've seen him do bad guys, so loved it. Next up, we got Professor McGonagall. She is described as a tall, thin witch with black hair that is always tied back in a tight bun. She has sharp features and an austere demeanor, often wearing green robes with a tartan shawl. She's portrayed as stern but fair teacher with a deep love and respect for her students. Now, these are the descriptions coming from the books folk. Don't blame me if you disagree. And I thought, the casting, yeah, this is fine. It works. But I think, she probably could have been a little bit younger. I think she could have also, I think they could have went with the black hair. I just think, there's little details sometimes when you're like reading a book and then they just go off. It's not that big a deal that she doesn't have black hair, but you're like, okay, she probably is a bit younger then, right? So I thought, and ChatGPT thought, Olivia Colman. Olivia Colman, we've seen her play older characters, in The Crown and all that. Olivia Colman, man, I mean, she just has crazy range, so she can do literally anything. But I think if you attached her to this project long term, you get some young kids in there, I feel like she would be perfect. And and you want someone who's like a big name that can like sort of massage the young actors, teach them how to act properly, and like having her on set would be incredibly valuable to me. Yo, what's up, Marley? How's it going? Hello, Carly. Although Tom Hiddleston's hair is blonde, I feel like he could be a Malfoy. That'd be an interesting pick. So people in the chat are sounding off here. Next up, let's go with Albus Dumbledore. So Albus Dumbledore in the book is described as a tall, thin man with long silver hair and a beard. He has piercing blue eyes, wears a half-moon spectacles. He's often seen wearing flowing robes, usually in shades of purple. Again, I think similar to Professor McGonagall, they decided to go super old with it, which fine. I think it worked. It was awesome. We loved it. But I think you can skew this a little bit younger. And then when you have this project over 10 years, I think it just works a little bit better. And so ChatGPT suggested Benedict Cumberbatch. He's got the blue eyes. We've seen him with the long silver hair with Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange, that character, it misses a lot of the wisdom that Albus Dumbledore can bring. And I think give Benedict Cumberbatch full-on series. He's going to take that thing. He's going to run with it. And I also think, like, imagine a young sort of hairy character in Benedict Cumberbatch. I think it just works. It really does for me. What do you guys think about that? Who else do you think could play Albus Dumbledore? I like how people feel weird about wanting to watch this Harry Potter series since J.K. Rowling is attached. Yeah, it's unfortunate, Marley, that J.K. is attached to this. We do not stand her at all at the Circle Club. But I think, it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, she's going to pass at some point. And I think these stories, we should be able to tell them. And we grew up with them and get a new perspective. And she's not going to be involved. It'll say executive producer because she wants her money. But she's not really involved with these projects. So what are your feelings about the original movie casting compared to how the books describe them? I think that the original cast, they get pretty close. You can definitely see here when I have the I have the descriptions and the pictures of the original cast that they don't fully line up, but I think it lines up enough. But yeah, Marley, I agree. J.K. Rowling is bad, but you got to let creatives create and tell these stories. And, you know, like I said, at some point she's going to be off this earth. We won't be talking about her, but these characters will exist forever. Next, we got RUBEUS HAGRID. RUBEUS HAGRID. A very large and tall man sitting nearly 12 feet tall. He is very muscular and has a wild, bushy black hair and thick beard. His eyes are described as beetles, and he often wears a moleskin overcoat and boots that are so large that it looks like he belongs to a giant. ChatGPT came up here with John Goodman. Now, I've seen John Goodman. When I see him, I see Fred Flintstone. I see The Big Lebowski. But I think he just has this jolly sort of vibe to him, right? Like when you look at John Goodman, you're like, he's a jolly big man. I think he looks a little terrifying, which is what RUBEUS HAGRID is. He is scary because he's so big and tall, but at the same time, she's a sweetheart. He's a gentle giant. So I think that would fit perfectly. And, you know, similar to Olivia Colman, I think him being a seasoned actor, he would be able to teach those young actors and their chops over time. I just wish the Harry Potter series didn't touch the book, expand on the lesser known characters. Yeah, I think that, and I see this is where I disagree with a lot of the people talking about, oh, you know, this series, we don't need it. I think with the TV series, you're going to get into some of the lesser known characters. Harry has other friends other than these two that we always see him with, and I think you'll see some of that. Like, they aren't in every single class together. Like, and I think the TV series will allow us to be closer to the book, and also I think it'll make people want to go back and read the books. Well, that's also pretty exciting. All right, next up we got Bellatrix Lestrange. I was excited about this one. So, as having long jet black hair that she wears in a wild, unkempt style, she has a pale complexion and dark, heavily lidded eyes that are described as like dark stones. She is tall and slender with a regal bearing that belies her ruthless nature. And ChatGPT came up with Miss Anya Taylor-Joy. I mean, I gotta say, that's pretty darn close, right? Like, Anya Taylor-Joy, she's gorgeous, but she, like, just has that sort of evil look to her. She's very macabre, very menacing. And, you know, I think despite her being evil, you really want a great character in Bellatrix. And I think naturally, Anya Taylor-Joy can really do that with her roles, even when she's playing someone who's a little bit off or creepy or a bit weird, that she still has that thing that sort of makes you pull to her. She's very charming. Marley said, I wanted a Dean Thomas series. Yeah, I think there's room for that. I think a Dean Thomas series, I think there's certainly room for that. I think that we're going to get way more of Dean and some of these other characters. Like, people don't even know that Dean works for the Daily Prophet because you don't get that in the movies. Dean's sort of this character that just pops in every once in a while. Hey, Harry, how's it going? And Dean's also, like, kind of way cool. Well, the character that they cast, the ChatGPT cast for Dean, I think it works honestly really perfectly. So we'll get to that. But Lord Voldemort, he is described as having a tall, thin, and snake-like appearance with red eyes that gleam like rubies. Voldemort's skin is white and smooth with no hair or eyebrows. His features are described as being both handsome and grotesque with high cheekbones and a thin curved nose. So I think that's sort of important, that he's supposed to be handsome and grotesque. Marley here says Margot Robbie as Bellatrix. That could be an interesting one. I could see that. She sort of has that Harley Quinn thing. But I think Anya Taylor-Joy a little bit younger, because that's also a thing that to me is one of the biggest things that the movies misses with the books is the ages of the characters. It's very off. Like, we don't talk about it in this video, but Harry's Godfather, what's his name? Gary Oldman's character. How am I blanking on this character's name? Gary Oldman in Harry Potter. God, I feel like a fraud. Sirius Black. Sirius Black is much younger. I think he's like in his 20s, but Gary Oldman is clearly not in his 20s. But Lord Voldemort, this is where me and ChatGPT disagreed. They said that Ezra Miller. Now, listen, I am not casting Ezra Miller in anything that has to be a 10-year project. I don't care if they have gone through therapy, rehab, all that. Nah, not happening. Don't want to be bothered or deal with the potential. So instead, we're going to go with Alex Skarsgård. I mean, look at the face. I mean, if you watch the session and see this man with Logan Roy, who is just scary, menacing, everything, like, this guy makes Logan sort of seem not as evil as he does. So perfect to me casting here. Like, they can get Skarsgård on this. Yeah, forget about it. That's perfect. Mr. Arthur Weasley, one of the pivotal parent figures in Harry Potter. He's described as having thinning hair and glasses and being tall and thin with a kind and gentle face. He wears a long coat, which is often described as being too big for him, and is often seen carrying a battered old briefcase. I thought the Weasleys were the hardest to cast because they have just such distinct looks, and it's not just the look, the personalities of the actors really dives into, or they really put the characters' personality into their performance. And so that was really difficult to me. But I think that Martin Freeman with ChatGPT here, Martin Freeman, he has that look. Like, look at him. He's got a gentle face. His face also, it's funny, it's described as too big for him. I don't know if I would say he has a huge head, but I think it just fits the description pretty well to me. And he's got the thinning hair. So yeah, Martin Freeman. I think I agree with ChatGPT with this one for sure. Next up, we got Mrs. Molly Weasley, who's described as a plump, motherly woman with red hair and brown eyes. Mrs. Weasley is known for her warm and welcoming nature, as well as her fierce and protectiveness of her family. Now, I feel like, me personally, that this is like, you gotta have Mrs. Weasley be tough. Like, people think about her as this sweet old lady, but like, you mess with her family, with her kids, she's about that smoke. And so to me, Catherine Zeta-Jones, yeah, that was the right pick. ChatGPT nailed this. I was like, yo, this is a tough pick. Like, Catherine Zeta-Jones, you put her into a series, forget about it. Like, and you see it even in her performance in Wednesday. And Wednesday, she isn't just this sort of like macabre, dark mom. She genuinely cares about Wednesday, and like, she gives her that tough love. And when Ron is acting a fool, when the Weasley twins are acting a fool, you need someone who's gonna whack them around. And I think Zeta-Jones, she would just crush that for sure. Now, we talked about this man a little bit earlier, Dean Thomas. Carly said mother. I agree. Dean Thomas. So he's a tall, good-looking boy with dark skin and friendly, easygoing personality. Dean is also shown to be talented at drawing, and his artwork and other features, and it's often featured in the Daily Prophet. I feel like, this casting, we all loved him. He was perfect. He's wonderful. He's not dark-skinned. I think he's probably, medium skin. I think every black person, half black, whatever, you just insert yourself into this character. Dean's so cool. Oh my god, I want more Dean. You saw Marley earlier talking about how he wanted Dean to have a whole series. I think people would love that, honestly. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that he worked for the Daily Prophet newspaper. So again, this is something I think in the TV series you can expand on a little bit more and do a little bit more. Is he a major character in the books? No, I'd say he's a supporting character. He's supporting. I think he's definitely someone who's friends with them, but yeah, he's important. But I think that there is definitely more room for them to do more with him in the movies that they did not do. And so for this cast, me and ChatGPT, we disagreed. ChatGPT said Ashton Sanders from Moonlight. He plays the middle version of Chiron. And I think, tall, good-looking, dark-skinned for sure. He definitely has the features, and I think that works. But my personal pick, and it may be just because I'm watching Sex Education right now, is Kadar Williams Sterling. Like when I'm watching this dude in Sex Education, I'm like, yeah, this dude has all the personality and the traits and the style of Dean. He's very go with the flow, very cool, dark skin. He's British, right? He's young, so I definitely think that this would this if I had to pick one person like you must cast, I would say Kadar Williams for sure would. But it's gonna be tough because it all depends on how they go about this. Like if they want to go super young, then you just obviously you have to, and I think they should do this. You have to just do a national search, get everyone in there who's young. You choose a couple people who are already established to play older roles, but I think for the younger roles, you just gotta let that thing fly, man. And it might be interesting too to see because like if they're doing one book equals one series, then or one book is one series if you're overseas, then if they do like a time jump or book 6, book 5, they may want to recast if they don't want to keep the same kids. I don't know. It's a tough decision to do. Luna Lovegood is described as having long, dirty blonde hair that she wears in a plait down her back and large, protuberant eyes that give her a dreamy, far-off look. Luna is also known for her unique sense of fashion, often wearing brightly colored clothes or unusual clothing, such as a necklace made of butterbeer corks. Her hair is dirty blonde. I think we all think that it's like, oh, she's so blonde. Like, her hair is dirty blonde. This is not dirty blonde to me, but they did. So ChatGPT and we agree and disagree on this one. ChatGPT thinks that Mia Goth would be the right choice. And if you look, it matches up pretty well, in my opinion. It matches up pretty well. Mia Goth is very quirky. She's very out there. She's weird. She's done a lot of horror series and things like that. But I think that Mia Goth would fit this role perfectly, but she's probably a little bit older than what they're going to go for, and it's fine. I think it makes sense. But, an older Luna, definitely. I think this would definitely work. I personally would have went with Millie Bobby Brown. Now, I know that's like, okay, whoa. Millie Bobby Brown, she's a headliner. Oh, she's a lead. No. You put this girl as a supporting character, someone on the side, and you just let her cook. Let her cook in that supporting role, and she just would crush it. Because, the thing is, when you put someone who has always been the main character, the lead role, the star attention, and you say, you're not the attention, sweetheart. You're not the main enchilada here. They really start to put their all into a supporting role. That's why I said someone like Olivia Colman, you give her a supporting role, they go all out with it. They build stories and backgrounds and all this stuff. Whereas if you don't take those roles seriously, then they can really fall off and die. And the reason why the original actress of Luna Lovegood we all loved and she did so well is because you can tell that she really, really put her heart and soul into it. Carly said, I would have loved to seen Anna Sophia Robb as Luna. Ooh, that would have been a good pick back in the day for sure, too. Anna Sophia Robb definitely would have fit that role to me. All right, next up, I gotta be honest with you all. So, Fred and George Weasley. This one, I made an executive decision. I was like, you can't recast. You can't choose someone else. It just, the names that they gave to me, it just really didn't work to me. But Fred and George Weasley, they're described as tall and good-looking boys with dark skin and friendly, easygoing personalities. Wait, no, excuse me. That is actually not correct. But all right, here we go. They have flaming red hair and often seen wearing matching clothing and accessories such as striped scarves and knitted jumpers with their initials on them. I think for this, you have to do a national search. I mean, these two are like the heart and soul to me of like the first movie. They really set the tone, and it's just going to be impossible to recast this with some people that are famous in twins. Some twins that they mentioned, Harry and Luke Treadaway. Don't know who that is. Aaron and Adam Nee. Max and Charlie Carver. Luke and Harry Kirby. Sam and Luke Trolley. Ben and Lewis Harrison. Marcus Lewis. I mean, Sam and Tom Keynes. Lenny and Bobby Jacobson. Like, I don't really think that there are any famous twin actors that could pull this off. You would have to do a national search. So Fred and George Weasley, ChatGPT, you failed there heavy. Next up, we got Neville Longbottom. So Neville is described as a chubby, round-faced boy with short blonde hair and forgetful personality. He is initially portrayed as a clumsy and timid, lacking in self-confidence, often teased by his classmates, but he eventually grows into a brave and capable wizard who becomes an important member of Dumbledore's army. And some even say he is the other chosen one. Now, if you watch Sex Education, you know exactly who this character is. You know exactly how this character is described. Asa Butterfield. I mean, this character that they describe, chubby, round-faced boy, short blonde hair. I mean, that they'd have to blonde his hair up, which I'm not a big fan of when you have to dye people's hair. But dude, Asa Butterfield, like, he would be perfect as Neville Longbottom. He's super awkward. I think that Neville Longbottom sort of needs to be that dorky sort of character, but also sort of like stands up. And when you watch Asa Butterfield in Sex Education, that's exactly who Otis is. Otis has no business standing up and speaking in front of the crowd, but he does it because it has to. And that's that Gryffindor within Neville that it's like, yeah, I'm not going to let you guys just say anything. And I think Asa Butterfield would have crushed that. In the front row, Saoirse Ronan would be perfect as Luna, maybe a bit older than what they're going for, though. Yeah, hello, Miss Jamie Lee. We're just casting, honestly. The age doesn't really matter. It could be older, younger. But yeah, Saoirse Ronan would be a pretty good Luna as well, too. I think that it would be interesting to see Saoirse play someone a little bit more evil because you always play someone sweet. But yeah, I think Saoirse would be pretty good, too. All right, next up, we got Ginny Weasley. Ginny Weasley is described as a tall, slender, and pretty young witch with long, fiery red hair and bright brown eyes. She has a feisty and independent personality and is known for her courage and determination. I think some of you will be very excited to know who ChatGPT chose for this one. It is Miss Sadie Sink. We all know Sadie Sink would kill this role. You watch her with Lucas in Stranger Things where she has that crush, and it's sort of similar to Jenny and Harry, but also just her range as an actress. She's super confident, and she's sort of, in Stranger Things, she's quiet and sort of to herself, but at the same time, she's got that confident and you'll tell someone off sort of personality, and I think Jenny is like that. And I think that's the thing is when you're Gryffindor, right? You're quiet. You still have that boldness to you, that confidence, independence, and fiery personality. And I think Sadie definitely would nail that. All right, so now we're getting into what I would call the big four: Draco, Ron, Hermione, Harry. Now, this is an impossible task, and I want you all to realize this is an impossible task. But Draco is described as a pale-pointed faced boy with sleek blonde hair and sharp features. He comes from a wealthy and prestigious family, pure blood family, and he often shows off his money and his status. He's very arrogant, snobby, condescending towards others. He thinks people are beneath him. He particularly doesn't like Muggleborns and anyone who's not pure blood status. So Draco Malfoy, ChatGPT went with Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet, he's not blonde, but you can see that comparison, or at least I can. Like the facial structure definitely there. You blonde him up. Timothy also comes from money. He also comes from wealth. He's a little bit snobby when he wants to be, but you think he's overall a good guy, and I think that Timothy could definitely pull this off for sure. Next up, we got Ron Weasley. Ron Weasley is described as tall, lanky, and freckle-faced boy with flaming red hair and bright blue eyes. He comes from a large, loving family of pure-blood wizards, but they are not as wealthy as the Malfoy family. So you need someone to contrast Draco with Weasley because that's exactly who they are. They're like sort of opposites, but coming from that pure blood. And it shows how just because you're pure blood, you're not necessarily like a psycho, evil person. Ron is often seen as comic relief of the trio and much needed humor throughout the series. He's very loyal to his friends. So ChatGPT came up with Thomas Brody-Sangster. Now, you may not remember him, but Thomas Brody-Sangster was in Game of Thrones. He was in a couple other projects. He just sort of has that face to me where it's like, especially in Game of Thrones, I know he's in Maze Runner and Nanny McPhee, Queen's Gambit, but he has that face to me where it's like he just has that raw look where it's like you know that this guy would tell a joke in a very serious moment to break the silence or break the humor up. So I think that this kid could do pretty well as Ron Weasley, and he looks young. He's very tall and sort of lanky looking as well. And then when you have that lanky looking dude with a lanky looking Timothée Chalamet, I think that contrast kind of would work. Let's see. Carly says he would do well, but I don't know. He'd be so annoying about it. She thinks Timothée Chalamet would be annoying about the role. Perhaps I could see that. All right. Next up, we got the last two. Hermione Granger. Hermione Granger, a bright, bookish girl with bushy brown hair, brown eyes, and large front teeth that she later has magically corrected. That's something else I don't think they did in the book where she corrects her teeth. She's often seen wearing Gryffindor robes, carrying a large stack of books. Now I know all the incels are going to be mad about this when they cast this because we are definitely going to have Hermione as a sister. Yara Shahidi, she was in Blackish, a few other projects. Man, I don't know. Like, this is just one of those where I'm like, it just fits to me. Like, if you read the description, bushy brown hair, brown eyes, large front teeth, and just like, she looks smart to me. Like, I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but Yara just looks smart to me. I think when you balance her with the other character, Thomas Brody, I think that they could sort of fit together. I think it works. The other option I would consider would be Zendaya. I think Zendaya also sort of has that Hermione sort of look. Zendaya herself, too, very intelligent, smart girl, but very confident. Zendaya isn't a Scorpio, but sort of looks and has that feel. Now, one thing I was thinking about poor Thomas Brody is I'm like, all right, can you really match Thomas Brody with Zendaya? Do they really fit? And then I'm like, well, she's dating Tom Holland, so, I mean, kind of in the same vein to me, to be honest with you. All right, last but not least, Harry Potter. As he's described as having unruly black hair, bright green eyes, a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. He's also depicted as being thin and small for his age in the earlier books, though he grows taller and fills out more as he gets older. He wears glasses and is often seen as wearing his Hogwarts school robes and casual clothing. Now, I think that's a really important thing, is that he's thin, small for his age, and in the earlier books, as it goes on, he sort of grows into his character. Now, ChatGPT ironically chose Tom Holland. Now, Tom Holland as Harry Potter, I mean, you can't tell me you don't kind of see it, right? And then imagine if they had Tom Holland and Zendaya, where it's like, Zendaya and Tom Holland have a real relationship. So seeing them together, it's sort of like, come on, put them together, which is exactly how you feel when you're reading the book, when you're watching the movie. You're like, okay, these two probably would have some sort of chemistry, something there, but it's never gonna come. And then when you pair Tom Holland with the fact that we had as Dumbledore, we had Benedict Cumberbatch, so that those two already have like a history there of acting together. Benedict Cumberbatch as Dumbledore, Tom Holland as Harry Potter. I think that would fit. It would work. These are all British actors too. And then when you think about Tom Holland going across from Timothée Chalamet, that works even more for me. I think those two, like Tom Holland almost seems like the opposite of Timothée Chalamet. But yeah, that's what we got. ChatGPT did its thing by recasting Harry Potter. Let me know in the comments if you're still here. Let me know who else you would like ChatGPT to recast. Choose another series. We'd be happy to do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And Yeah, I think it did a pretty good job. ChatGPT is fun, man. It's an interesting thing to play with. I think this series coming out on HBO Max is going to be a lot of fun too. I think people will enjoy it once it comes out, but it just needs to come out to get people to cool down and relax. But all right, that's going to do it for today. Thank you all for watching. You know, like we always say here, just be you. Peace. All right, have a good weekend, y'all.